I'm Laura McNamara reporting from Minneapolis, Minnesota at the ACE annual conference this year. Joining me now is Mike Jerke. He just won the Merle Anderson Award at the ACE conference. Can you give us a few comments about the award?
It was quite an honor, frankly. Completely humbled to receive it. Anybody that remembers and knows Merle understands why the award was named for him. Merle is an icon and legendary for his drive, dedication, and just persistence in pushing this industry forward. He was actively promoting ethanol, encouraging others to get engaged in the industry. I think right up until his passing, when he was like 96 years old. So incredibly honored and to receive an award named after him.
And what does it mean for you?
The thing that comes to mind is it's really not about me. I mean, I think I've had the benefit of being able to be influenced by and meet a lot of really great people in my career. And I've worked at a number of plants over the years, and so that just sort of exponentially increases with the number of contact and individuals. And all of those people have built me up. I mean, to the extent that you can get everybody on the same page about a mission and a vision and achieving that. That's great, but it takes those people doing the work, and I've really been blessed to have really great connections with so many different people across the industry. So to the extent to be recognized, again, I'd just say completely humbled and honored by that. But I think it really reflects so many people that have helped me along the way, and that's what I think about.
When Brian Jennings presented the award, he really highlighted your background. Some people that have joined ACE have learned about ethanol through ACE, but you were already involved in the industry long before.
So I came into the industry in 2001, and just by luck, that was when we really were starting to see the industry build out begin, and as that happened, I mean, and really it was sort of a domino effect, if you will. I think about, the early ethanol plants in South Dakota or Minnesota and the farmers that got together collectively to develop those. And back then, a lot of those companies were organized as cooperatives. That was their structure, a cooperative. And that's a very unique business structure where people come together and pool their resources and just their intellectual capacity to do something collectively that they wouldn't otherwise be able to do on their own, right? And so that resonates for me, going all the way back to college and being very interested in sort of that cooperative structure, specifically as it relates to agriculture. And so I was working in the ag sector, in the grain industry, as this industry started to develop, and was lucky enough to get involved with a company called Quad County Corn Processors, as I said, back in 2001. And so, really seeing that come together and see that momentum carry forward to the industry that we have today. And I think, it's easy to take things for granted, and all of what we have been built, what has been built, that path, the stones that are in that path were laid by so many other people. And I think we need to recognize that and realize that the hard work just doesn't stop. And we see that in our industry all the time with new initiatives, whether we're talking about carbon, plant efficiency, whether we're talking about policy issues, trying to educate the public and our political representatives on the benefits of E15 year-round and codifying that. There's always issues, and we all have to help kind of shoulder that load. So it continues. It just kind of continues. Some of the challenges change to a degree, but the solution is always coming together as one entity, one voice, and moving forward.
What would you highlight as some of the key advancements the industry has made throughout at least your career?
Well, I think about it in a number of ways. If I think about it from an operational perspective, the very first plant I was at had an engineering guarantee for efficiencies that just pales in comparison to what our plants are doing today. You know, everything from how many gallons you can generate from a bushel of corn to the thermal efficiency of these plants. Every metric has just really been has really changed over time. And I think about, you know, the vendors, the suppliers to our industry, and the impact they've had in being able to introduce ingredients that allow for us to do what we do in a much better way. And then from the policy perspective, I mean, you know, once upon a time there was the volumetric ethanol excise tax credit. That's no longer in existence, but that was a thing that helped to drive some of that initial investment and innovation. And I think people need to continue to remember that there is a place for, you know, government supporting and allowing an industry to compete in a world where absent ethanol, it's a petroleum world. So those changes are just a couple. I mean, the policy thing, it completely changed. And then really the ground-shaking change that happened when we really developed the focus on carbon, and people began to understand how crucial the ethanol industry was in being able to address carbon concerns and sequester carbon, and the, you know, utilizing the biogenic nature of what we do. And the benefits, you know, both societal benefits and financial benefits, societal for everybody, and financial for investors primarily, but also the communities that these plants live in, is unimaginable. I wouldn't have been able to, you know, there's no way I could have even in 2001, 2010, 2015 hazarded guess as to where we would be sitting in 2026. So very remarkable. And I think it really, you know, it gets me excited for being able to sort of sit and watch what unfolds in the next 10, 15 years.
And what's the role ACE specifically has played in the advancement of the ethanol industry and the public knowledge and policy making?
And so ACE specifically, as I've said and will echo frequently, is they are an organization who is grassroots driven. And so when we talk about policies that come up and percolate and then have a success in D.C. or, you know, at the state level, a lot of times, and you see it with ACE over and over again, they're listening. They're listening to their members. Their members are often farmers, people that are connected to the land, that understand what it is that agriculture can do to be a solution, and bringing forth very unique, dare I say, out-of-the-box thinking that once ACE is able to grab a hold of that, they start, you know, working the lobbying side and developing something that is more tangible with the various connections they have, you can just see that continue to unfold. And that's a role, I think, that's critical. And certainly we have other trade associations out there. All of them are valuable. I think ACE stands unique in the way that it generates policies and ideas from that grassroots.
What is a message you would give to a farmer right now who is, you know, trying to figure out ethanol? Should they invest? Should they become a bigger part of a piece of the industry?
You know, I think whether it's farming or anything else, I think one of the biggest dangers we have as humans is to be complacent and to think that whatever exists today will always exist, and that's a dangerous mindset. And so I would encourage people to not be complacent and to remember how this industry developed, and that what seems like something that's been around and will be around for a long time in the exact same way, that's not necessarily true. So you have to be aware and vigilant for, you know, because look, you know, we're competing with folks that would just as soon, you know, see us not be a competitor in the gas tank. So, and in terms of where the industry is headed, a farmer can benefit so many different ways from the ethanol plant, whether that's just the fact that the corn basis in their area has now increased dramatically by having a local processor of corn there, and that benefits that farmer. That's great. To the extent that they've taken the step to invest in one of these plants, they are even more engaged in seeing the success of the industry and being engaged. And in the advocacy, you just can't you just can't overlook the advocacy, whether it's entities like ACE or the Corn Growers Associations or so forth. One voice doesn't necessarily cut it and gets lost in the noise. Lots of voices coming together can get things done.
In earlier presentations, it was mentioned that, like, market-wise, now is the time for E15 fuels, blended fuels, to be implemented. If there was any time, now's the time. Do you feel like we're going to be able to get it done?
Well, I wish I had a crystal ball. So many times in my life, I wish I've had a crystal ball. And let's be honest. E15 year-round is so long overdue. Could have helped the consumer. Could have helped the climate any time in the past that it had been implemented. I mean, way back we were excited when EPA talked about every vehicle beyond 2001 being able to use the product, and thinking that ought to be the motivator to get things done. And here we are in 2026, closer to actually being in a world where E15 across the country year-round is available. Is now the time? Is it going to happen? We have more momentum now than we've ever had. We have Senator Thune. We have Congress recognizing that it needs to get done. Unfortunately, it's Congress, and that doesn't necessarily mean it will get done, but it means that we have to keep the pressure on, and we have to let people know that we're paying attention, and that we're going to hold people accountable. And I think that's that continues to be the reality.
It's a role that ACE seems to have stepped into quite well.
Oh, I would agree. I absolutely agree. They've lived it. Brian's team, they're so well connected in Washington and with other policy influencers. They're an important piece of that.
And just given current geopolitical dynamic, the energy security and self-sufficiency is a message that I almost feel isn't spoken about enough.
And it should be, right? I mean, it is all of those things. It has been all of those things. Maybe some of us are maybe think that everybody understands that, but we shouldn't. I mean, I guess that's complacency again, right? It's making sure we're continuing to hammer that message. My goodness, when we have Middle East conflicts, war with Iran, gas prices where they are, we should be very vocal about ethanol's role in that. And when I can roll it up to a pump that has E15 here in the Twin Cities Metro, and I look at the non E15 version, and there's over a 50-cent spread, the consumers see that. They see that, absolutely understand that impact to their pocketbook.
Well, thank you so much for your time today. Is there anything you'd like to add?
No, Laura, I appreciate the interest, and I would just say, again, I'm extremely honored and humbled to have received the award, let alone even be considered for it.
Thank you so much for your time today. I'm Laura McNamara reporting from Minneapolis, Minnesota.